The aliens who lived among humans. No one noticed when the first alien arrived. There was no bright light in the sky. No explosion. No warning. Life continued the same way it always had. People went to work. Children went to school. Cars filled the roads. Cities stayed loud and crowded. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, they blended in. They walked like us. Spoke like us. Laughed like us. They learned quickly. At first, they only watched. My name is Daniel Rowe, and I used to work in the city records office. It was a boring job. I spent most of my days checking birth certificates, death reports, and old residency files. Thousands of names. Millions of dates. Most people think records tell the past. They don't. They tell you when something doesn't fit. That's how I found them. It started with a woman named Elena Moore. She appeared in our system in 1984. No birth hospital listed. No parents recorded. No adoption file. Just a name, a date of birth, and a social number issued the same year. That happens sometimes. Files get lost. But then I noticed something else. Her photo was updated every 10 years. She never aged. Not even a little. At first, I thought it was a system error. Then I found another. Michael Grant. Born 1972. Same problem. No parents. No early school records. No childhood photos. His face stayed exactly the same for over 40 years. Same eyes. Same smile. Same skin. Not younger. Not older. Just frozen. I started searching more names. That was my first mistake. There were hundreds. Men. Women. Different races. Different countries. All of them appeared suddenly in official records as adults. All of them had perfect paperwork from that point forward. All of them did not age. And none of them ever died. I didn't tell anyone at first. People laugh at things they don't understand. Instead, I watched. I followed their lives through data. They moved often. Changed jobs. Changed names. But never too much. They learned how to stay invisible. How to live just normally enough. Then one of them noticed me. Her name was Elena Moore. She walked into the records office on a quiet Tuesday morning. I recognized her immediately. She looked exactly like her photo. She smiled at me like we were old friends. Daniel, she said softly. I froze. I had never told her my name. You've been looking at things you shouldn't, she continued. Her voice was calm. Almost kind. I asked her who she was. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned closer and whispered something that made my blood turn cold. We lived among your ancestors long before you built cities. She told me they were observers. Not invaders. Not conquerors. At least, not at first. They were sent to study humanity. To understand how we think. How we love. How we destroy each other. They wore human bodies like clothing. Perfect copies. Except for one flaw. They could not age. We never meant to stay this long, Elena said. But your world became useful. I asked her how many of them were here. She smiled again. More than you think, she said. And fewer than you fear. Then she gave me a choice. Forget everything. Or learn the truth. I chose wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. I started seeing people differently. The man on the bus who never blinked. The woman at the cafe who never ate. The neighbor who never threw anything away. They were everywhere. Hidden in plain sight. Living among us. And something was about to change. Because the observers were no longer just watching. They were preparing. I stopped trusting my eyes after that night. Every face felt like a mask. Every smile felt rehearsed. I kept asking myself the same question. How long had they really been here? The next morning, I went back to work like nothing had happened. Elena was gone. No visitor record. No camera footage. It was as if she had never entered the building. But her words stayed in my head. Observers. Useful. Preparing. I started noticing the patterns. Aliens, though they never called themselves that, always lived close to important systems. Hospitals. Media offices. Government buildings. Technology companies. Never all together. Never obvious. They spread out like roots underground. People trusted them. That was the most disturbing part. They were good listeners. Good co-workers. Good neighbors. They learned empathy by copying it. They learned kindness by studying it. But they didn't feel it the way we do. I tested a theory. I searched crime records. Every major disaster had one thing in common. Someone survived who shouldn't have. Someone with no injuries. No trauma. No shock. Someone who vanished quietly months later. Their names matched my list. The first human disappearance I could confirm happened in 1997. A teacher named Rachel Kim. She entered her apartment building. Security cameras caught her walking inside. She never came out. No struggle. No screams. No trace. The building superintendent? An observer. I found hundreds more. People who disappeared without fear. Without resistance. As if they trusted whoever took them. As if they were invited. I confronted Elena again. She appeared in my apartment that night without knocking. She stood by the window, looking at the city lights. "You're not hiding it very well," she said. I asked her why humans were disappearing. She didn't deny it. "We need samples," she said. "Your bodies. Your minds. Your emotional responses." I shouted at her. She didn't react. Anger meant nothing to her. She explained that their species couldn't reproduce naturally anymore. They used to. Long ago. But space travel changed them. Radiation damaged their ability to create life. So they studied other species. Including us. "At first, we only observed," she said. "Then we copied. Then we learned. Then we stayed." Humanity evolved faster than expected. We adapted. We survived. That made us valuable. I asked her what would happen next. She looked at me for a long time. "We are close to a decision," she said. "Some of us believe coexistence is possible." "And the others?" I asked. She looked away. "They believe you are a resource," she said quietly. I realized then that they were divided. Not all observers agreed. Some had lived among humans so long they began to imitate emotions too well. They formed families. Friendships. Lives. Others stayed cold. Scientific. Patient. The cold ones were winning. They believed humanity was reaching a dangerous point. Too many weapons. Too much anger. Too much destruction. They believed we would destroy the planet. And take them with us. "They are planning a transition," Elena said. I asked what that meant. She hesitated. "That's the word they use when a species is replaced." The transition wouldn't be loud. No invasion. No war. They would simply step in. Replace leaders. Replace workers. Replace families. One by one. Slow enough that no one would notice. I asked her why she was telling me this. She said something I didn't expect. "Because you see patterns," she said. "And because you still believe humans deserve a choice." Before she left, she gave me a warning. "Trust no one who never changes," she said. "Not their face. Not their habits. Not their fear." Then she was gone. The next day, the news reported something strange. A government official gave a speech. People praised his calmness. His perfect delivery. But I recognized his face. He hadn't aged in 30 years. That's when I understood. They were no longer hiding. They were stepping forward. And humanity didn't even realize it was being replaced. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Every news broadcast felt staged. Every public speech felt hollow. I started paying attention to faces, not words. The government official appeared everywhere. Television. Online interviews. Public events. People loved him. They said he felt safe. Stable. Reassuring. I knew why. Observers were designed to project calm. They absorbed fear without showing it. Humans mistook that for strength. I started documenting everything. Names. Dates. Photos. I built a private database at home. Faces that never changed. People who vanished quietly. It grew faster than I expected. Then I got an email. No sender name. Just a subject line. "You are not alone." The message was short. "Some of us remember what it means to be human. Meet me where the old city ends." I almost didn't go. It could have been a trap. But staying silent felt worse. I went after sunset. The old city was mostly abandoned. Broken buildings. Empty streets. The kind of place no one noticed anymore. She was waiting for me near an old library. Her name was Mara. She looked human. Tired. Scared. Real. She told me she was an observer. But not like the others. "I was sent here in 1961, she said. "I was supposed to stay 10 years. She stayed 6 to 5. Too long. Long enough to forget the mission. Mara lived a human life. She married. She worked. She buried people she loved. She learned grief. Real grief. Something observers weren't meant to feel. Some of us broke, she said. Or maybe we evolved. She told me there were dozens like her. Observers who had lived too closely among humans. Who started to feel guilt, regret, attachment. They called themselves the Remembered. They remembered what the mission used to be. They remembered that humanity wasn't supposed to be replaced. Only understood. The Remembered were being erased. Quietly. Observers who showed too much emotion were flagged. Removed from society. Recycled, as the cold ones called it. I asked how long we had. Mara's answer terrified me. Less than a year, she said. The transition has already begun. She showed me proof. A hospital ward where newborns were being switched. Not taken. Replaced. Observer infants grown in artificial bodies. Perfect. Silent. Watching. Human parents never knew. The babies cried. They looked normal. But they didn't dream. They didn't fear. They didn't love. Not yet. They'll grow into leadership roles, Mara said. In 40 years, your species won't exist in power. Humanity wouldn't be killed. Just phased out. I asked how to stop it. Mara shook her head. You can't fight us with weapons, she said. You can't expose us publicly. People wouldn't believe it. Or worse. They'd accept it. What can we do then? I asked. Mara looked at me carefully. You can remind humans what makes them human, she said. Fear. Love. Change. Observers couldn't change naturally. Their biology was fixed. They could mimic emotion, but not grow from it. Human unpredictability scared them. The Remembered had a plan. Risky. Desperate. They wanted to force observers to feel. To overload their emotional systems. Make them unstable. How? I asked. Mara smiled sadly. By letting humans see us, she said. Not as monsters. But as neighbors who lied. As I left the old city, I noticed something terrifying. We were being watched. Not by cameras. By people. Standing still. Not blinking. The transition wasn't just coming. It was already here. The hardest part wasn't fear. It was pretending everything was normal. For weeks after meeting Mara, I lived two lives. By day, I went to work. I smiled at coworkers. I avoided looking too closely at faces. By night, I met with the Remembered. Basements. Abandoned buildings. Places the observers didn't bother watching anymore. There were more of them than I expected. Teachers. Doctors. Engineers. Observers who had lived human lives for too long. They spoke differently. Slower. Less perfect. Like people who carried memories that hurt. They explained the risk. If the cold observers detected emotional instability, they would act fast. Disappearances would increase. The transition would accelerate. Still, the plan moved forward. They chose a public place. A live broadcast. Millions of viewers. A moment no one could erase. The target was the same government official. The one people trusted. The one who never aged. His name was Jonathan Hale. An observer wearing power like a second skin. Mara had once worked with him. Before she changed. His never felt loss, she said. He doesn't understand it. So they decided to show him. They used something observers feared. Not weapons. Memories. Human memories, amplified and forced into their neural systems. Love. Grief. Regret. All at once. The broadcast began like any other. Jonathan Hale stood at a podium. Calm. Smiling. He spoke about unity. About safety. About a stable future. Then it happened. For half a second, his voice trembled. Just slightly. People noticed. Not enough to panic. Enough to feel uneasy. His eyes widened. His hands shook. Something inside him was breaking. Behind the scenes, the Remembered pushed harder. They fed him images. A mother crying at a grave. A child waiting for a parent who never came home. A lover growing old alone. Human pain. Raw and unfiltered. Jonathan stopped speaking. The silence stretched. Live. Uncut. Millions watched. Then he screamed. It wasn't loud. It was small. Broken. Like a sound someone makes when they finally understand loss. Blood ran from his nose. Observers weren't built for this. His perfect calm shattered. I didn't know, he whispered. Over and over. The broadcast cut. Too late. Clips spread everywhere. People replayed the moment. Analyzed it. Argued. Some said it was a medical emergency. Others said it was stress. But a few noticed something else. His face. It changed. Aging. Just a little. The cold observers reacted immediately. The remembered began disappearing that night. Mara didn't answer her phone. Neither did the others. I went into hiding. The city felt different. Quieter. Watchful. Too many people standing still. Then something unexpected happened. Humans started talking. Sharing stories. A neighbor who never slept. A coworker who never ate. A relative who never aged. The cracks were spreading. Fear returned. Real fear. The kind observers couldn't control. And fear, once shared, spreads faster than truth. The cold observers had underestimated us. They forgot something important. Humans change when threatened. They adapt. They resist. A message appeared on every screen one night. No logos. No source. Just words. We have lived among you. We are sorry. It wasn't from the cold ones. It was from the remembered. Or what was left of them. The transition paused. Not stopped. Paused. Observers waited to see what humanity would do next. And for the first time in decades, they were afraid. Fear changed the world faster than any war ever had. It didn't arrive all at once. It spread quietly. People started watching each other. Not with anger. With doubt. Every familiar face felt unfamiliar. Every routine felt staged. The news tried to calm everyone. They called it mass hysteria. Stress reactions. A viral panic. But their anchors never blinked on camera. People noticed that too. Online forums exploded. Side-by-side photos. Old ebooks. Family albums. Faces that didn't age. People who had been 30 for 50 years. The phrase unchanging ones trended worldwide. So did another. They walk among us. Observers withdrew from public view. Too many eyes now. Too much fear. They retreated into controlled spaces. Government buildings. Private facilities. Underground centers. Human society fractured. Some people wanted answers. Others wanted protection. And some wanted the observers gone. No matter the cost. Protests filled the streets. Signs reading. Show US the truth. Age like US or leave. We are not your experiment. The observers tried to respond. They issued a global address. Different faces. Different voices. Same message. We came in peace, they said. We came to learn. We stayed because you fascinated us. The words sounded right. But the timing felt wrong. Humans no longer trusted perfect speeches. We trusted fear. And fear told us something was very wrong. Then the first observer was captured. Not by soldiers. By civilians. A man who hadn't aged in 40 years. Cornered in a grocery store. Surrounded by phones. He didn't fight. Didn't run. He just stood there. Confused. Like a machine waiting for instructions. When someone asked him how old he was, he paused. Too long. That hesitation said everything. The video went viral. Billions watched. Something inside humanity shifted. The fear became anger. I stayed hidden. Moving constantly. I received a message from Mara. One sentence. They are losing control. The cold observers met in secret. They debated humanity's reaction. Some wanted to accelerate the transition. Others argued it would cause total collapse. For the first time, they disagreed openly. Fear does that. Even to them. Power grids failed in several cities. Transportation systems shut down. Observers had controlled infrastructure quietly for years. Now they used it to slow us down. But humans adapted. We always do. Old systems came back online. Manual controls. Local solutions. The observers hadn't planned for that. They never understood creativity under pressure. Then something terrifying happened. An observer child aged. Just slightly. Under emotional stress. It was documented. Tested. Confirmed. Fear was changing them. Not killing them. Changing them. The cold observers realized the truth too late. Human emotion wasn't just unpredictable. It was contagious. And if observers could change, then they could also break. The message came again that night. Shorter this time. We can no longer hide. Neither can you. The world didn't end in fire. It ended in confusion. Cities slowed to a crawl. Schools closed. Flights stopped. Markets froze. No one trusted systems anymore. Too many of them had been quietly guided by observers. Governments admitted what they had denied for decades. Not everything. Just enough. They confirmed that non-human intelligences had been embedded in society. They claimed cooperation. They promised control. No one believed them. The observers stopped pretending. They began appearing openly. Still wearing human faces. Still using human names. But no longer hiding what they were. They spoke directly to humanity. Not through leaders. Through screens everywhere. Phones. Billboards. Emergency broadcasts. We lived among you to learn, they said. We stayed because you were unstable. We prepared because you were dangerous. Those words sealed it. Fear turned to rage. Not everywhere. But enough. Violence broke out. Observers were attacked. Some defended themselves. Others froze. Unable to process hatred. I watched from a safe place. A building Mara had prepared. I didn't know if she was alive. But I followed her instructions. Then the observers made a mistake. They tried to negotiate as a collective. They didn't understand individuality. They offered terms. They would stop the transition. They would reduce replacements. They would share technology. In exchange, they would remain. Humanity argued with itself. Some said coexistence was possible. Others said it was too late. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal easily. Evidence surfaced. Human experiments. Memory extractions. Genetic sampling. Observers had crossed lines long ago. The remembered released everything they had. Files. Recordings. Testimonies. It shattered any illusion of innocence. But they also released something else. A truth no one expected. The observers were dying. Slowly. Their bodies couldn't adapt to Earth forever. They needed emotional stability to survive. And humanity had destroyed that. Fear was poison to them. Hatred even worse. They were unraveling. Some observers fled. Left Earth quietly. Their ships had been hidden for decades. Watching. Waiting. Others stayed. Those who had lived human lives. Who had families. Who had felt loss. They couldn't leave. They chose to face humanity. Not as rulers. Not as observers. But as refugees. The world stood on the edge. One choice left. Extermination. Or coexistence. I received one final message from Mara. They want to stay. Not all of them. But enough. She asked me to speak. Not as a leader. As a witness. Someone human. Someone flawed. I didn't want to. But history doesn't wait for comfort. I stepped forward. And told the world everything. The world listened. Not because they trusted me. But because there was no one left to trust. I spoke on a live broadcast. No script. No protection. Just truth. I told them how long the observers had been here. What they had done. What they feared. I told them about the remembered. About observers who learned love. Who broke their own kind's rules to protect us. Some people cried. Others shouted at their screens. Both reactions felt human. Then the observers spoke. Not as one voice. As many. Different faces. Different stories. Some confessed. Some begged. Some stayed silent. Humanity argued for days. Cities held votes. Governments collapsed. New councils formed. Nothing moved quickly anymore. Fear slowed everything. Then came the question no one wanted to answer. What do we do with them? Exile was suggested. So was imprisonment. So was eradication. History had seen these choices before. They never ended cleanly. Mara appeared beside me during one broadcast. Alive. Changed. Her face showed lines now. Aging. Proof. She explained the final truth. Observers could survive on Earth. But only if they accepted change. Only if they became vulnerable. Like us. Their biology could adapt. But it required a permanent bond to human emotion. No shields. No suppression. No control. Many would not survive the process. Their minds would collapse under guilt. Under grief. Under fear. It was a choice. Remain as they were and leave. Or stay and become something new. Something fragile. The cold observers chose exile. They boarded their hidden ships. Left orbits silently. No goodbyes. No apologies. The remembered stayed. Along with others who were willing to change. They stepped forward publicly. Accepted judgment. Accepted risk. Humanity voted. Not everywhere. Not unanimously. But enough. The agreement was simple. Observers who stayed would lose immunity, lose protection, lose control. They would live as civilians. Age. Feel. Die. Some humans protested. Others welcomed them. Most just watched. Exhausted. The transition ended. No replacements. No hidden control. The systems returned to human hands. Broken. But ours. Years passed. The world didn't heal. But it changed. Observers aged. Some raised children. Some couldn't handle regret. They faded quietly. Mara lived another 12 years. She died human. Afraid. Loved. Before she died, she said something I'll never forget. "We didn't save your species," she whispered. "You saved ours." Now, when I walk through the city, I see faces that change. Wrinkles. Scars. Time. We're no longer alone. But we're no longer watched. History will argue about what we did. Whether it was right. Whether it was mercy. All I know is this. They lived among us. They learned us. And in the end, they became us. Years later, people stopped using the word observer. There was no need for it anymore. History books tried to organize what happened. Dates. Decisions. Causes. They failed. Some truths don't fit neatly into chapters. Children born after the change learned about it in school. They asked simple questions. Why didn't we notice? Why didn't they leave earlier? Adults never answered the same way twice. The cities felt different. Less efficient. More alive. Systems broke often. People fixed them together. Some former observers became artists. Others became teachers. A few chose isolation. They carried memories that were too heavy. Every year, on the same day, people lit lights in their windows. No flags. No speeches. Just quiet acknowledgement. Not all humans forgave. Not all needed to. Coexistence was never about comfort. It was about responsibility. The sky stayed silent. No ships returned. No messages followed. If others were watching, they kept their distance. Sometimes I wonder if we passed a test. Or failed one. Maybe both. What I know is this. The greatest lie was never that aliens existed. It was that we thought we were being watched. We were always watching each other. Learning. Changing. And that made all the difference. This is not a story about invasion. Or conquest. Or victory. It's a story about choice. About fear. About becoming something new. The aliens who lived among humans are gone now. What remains are people. Imperfect. Temporary. Real. And for the first time in a very long time, the future belongs to those who can change.